everyone. This is Tim Rowan. Welcome to the next in our series of CEO interviews for the Rowan Report. I'm very pleased today to have the privilege of welcoming Adrian Schauer, the CEO and co-founder of AlayaCare. Adrian, welcome.
Thank you, Tim. Happy to be here.
We are talking about the U.S. market, even though I know you work beyond that. Can you tell us a little bit about the AlayaCare scope before you start asking questions about your predictions for 2021?
Yeah, absolutely. So AlayaCare was founded in Canada. So this was the first market we tackled. And then very quickly after that, we entered the U.S. market, starting with private duty, then making our way into the Medicaid space. We do a lot of home infusion, a lot of private duty nursing, pediatrics, and so on. So U.S. is the biggest market we're in. It's the fastest growing, but we do a lot of business both in Canada and in Australia as well.
And of course, you have to go visit Australia once in a while just to keep track of things.
Preferably in our winter, their summer. Yes.
So we're sitting here toward the beginning of a new year, and especially in the United States, a new era. So I know that you have some thoughts. You've been watching the home care and especially Medicaid section of the U.S. post-acute market for several years now. What are you looking for? What do you see coming that my viewers should know about?
Yeah, we see a couple of interesting trends. Number one, the siloing of care, right? These hard lines between personal care and skilled care, we think are starting to evaporate, depending on the payer, depending on the market. But there's a recognition that, first of all, home is going to be a very important setting for care and of growing importance. And that what it takes to really maintain someone at home and get them a high level of care, it goes beyond any specific episodic intervention, the social determinants and how you can address those with personal care is important and is part of the bigger long-term solution.
That's interesting. It's beginning to look as though COVID-19 is going to be with us for a good part of this second year of its threat. Do you see that as the reason that care in the home is the primary reason that it's coming up?
I see that as an accelerant. All the basic building blocks have been there for years. It's rare to find someone who needs care who would prefer to be in a hospital or even a residential care setting relative to in their home. So patient preference has always been there. Cost has always been there for many, not all situations. Once you hit a certain level of acuity, there's no doubt that it's actually more efficient to be in a congregate care setting. But for the majority of care, particularly our elderly population's need, as technology has improved and as the way we organize care has evolved, there's more and more that can be done in the home. And so you add COVID as an accelerant where, first of all, virtual care, all the barriers that shouldn't have been there anyway, evaporated quickly, number one. And then number two, it's just less safe. It's harder to do infection control in long-term care in a hospital. And so the additional safety aspect of home as a setting of care has accelerated.
I want to explore one of the things that you said, where you see the lines blurring between different kinds of care, skilled nursing therapy and personal care. Tell me more about that. That the division has been pretty strict. Here in the States, they have separate national associations. They have separate payment systems. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so historically, I think that's absolutely been true. And then you look at how that gets chipped away at. And if you think of the home care benefit that Medicare Advantage plans can open or can offer now, that's the first major step in the right direction. And in fact, you've done some very good reporting on what the tail looks like between a legislation and this and a lot of this type of care being done. And there is a tail, right? First, the plans need to offer the benefit, the members have to subscribe, and the providers have to organize to deliver it. So it's not something that happens overnight, but when it works, which it does, you start to see more and more momentum. And I think that's what we're seeing.
Yeah. A lot of owners, especially in the private duty owners, have been telling me they're taking a wait and see attitude on this opening up to Medicare Advantage. Are your clients telling you the same thing?
Yeah, I would say that's broadly accurate. There's, if you think of the classic hype cycle related with a change like this, we're still kind of on the not quite at the peak of inflated expectations, but coming up the curve, and then eventually the system will cross the chasm and it'll become mainstream. And the fact that it works and it's cost effective and it's better for the health system, it's better for patients. At the end of the day, I truly believe that'll prevail, but it won't be a straight line.
Yeah, it'll ramp up. Well, kind of reminds me of the way people talk about the COVID vaccine. I'm going to wait and see what happens to everybody else first, and then I'll let it be in my arm. Yeah, somebody's going to have to be on the bleeding edge.
Yeah.
So the other thing I know about AlayaCare is you're becoming known for partnerships and coordination and interoperability. Yeah. You have links with other technologies. You mentioned remote patient monitoring. I want to hear you talk about the kinds of alliances you have and what technologies you think are going to be important to allow your customers to be more competitive.
Yeah. So it's a great question. Strategically, here's how we think about it. We want to be the best in the world at the core workflows we support. We want to be better at scheduling than anybody else. We want to have a better mobile app than everybody else. We want intake processes to be more efficient, your revenue cycle to be more efficient. But anyone who runs an agency knows that even though that set of capabilities might be at the center, how good you are at recruiting, at applicant tracking matters. How good you are at performance management matters. How differentiated your client experience is matters. And so we don't think a one-size-fits-all is going to be the end resting place of this industry. Providers want to differentiate themselves. And to do that from an IT perspective, they are going to have to play systems integrator in some sense. And so we've always taken it very seriously to have open interfaces into our app, to have an event-driven architecture, and then to be able to work with our larger clients to integrate with whatever they're looking to do with other best-of-breed systems. And for our smaller clients who maybe have a lesser appetite to do that, to go out and cultivate an ecosystem of partners. So that, for example, if you say, well, I want to invest in applicant tracking, recruiting is, I have all the demand I need and not enough supply, I want to double down on this, that we can come to the table and say, look, here are 3 applicant tracking options. They're all well integrated with AlayaCare. Your workflows will be seamless, but don't wait for us, don't wait for our product roadmap to evolve the light applicant tracking functionality we have to meet your need in an area you want to differentiate yourself.
So you're in a extremely competitive market space.
Yeah.
There are private duty and Medicaid software companies that have been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Some dominate the market. They're new. I keep hearing about startups that are coming up with innovative software and beginning to sign up clients. So in that arena, which is better for a company like yours, to develop these adjunct technologies yourself or to open up your APIs and take on partners?
I think it's both. There's a wise man once told me the best decisions you make are on what not to do, right? And we have no shortage of opportunity, and we have no shortage of good ideas. Our clients have no shortage of good ideas. It's rare we get a feature request where we think, no, that wouldn't be generally useful. But what a software company has to do to be long-term successful is to correctly draw the boundaries around where you want to be the best in the world. And then find a way to not make that boundary limiting to your clients. And so that's really, we see ourselves as a platform, not as a point solution. And so we want to provide our customers a platform that delivers best in, best of breed of the core of what we do, but enables them to go out and pick the various differentiating tools that helps them deliver on their brand promise.
I'm curious too about the challenges that are facing the industry. You hear from a lot of agency owners.
Yeah.
What do they tell you? What I'll tell you what they tell me, but first, what are you hearing from, and your clients are growing. You're taking on more and more sectors of the U.S. all the time, I'm hearing. So you get some good feedback. What are their main concerns? What are they faced with as we move into 2021?
Yeah. So the most broad statement I can make is that everyone's more concerned with supply than demand. So the hardest part of everyone's business is recruiting and retaining their staff.
We agree. I'm hearing the same thing.
Yeah. We have a pretty strong conviction on where the industry is going to go with this, and some very innovative solutions we're bringing to the table to help accelerate the market to that end state. And so to foreshadow a little bit that thinking, I'm going to start with one of the great paradoxes, which is everyone's short of care workers. Turnover rates can be relatively high. And when you survey your caregivers who've left, the number one reason you get back is, I didn't get enough hours, or I didn't get consistent hours. So that's the paradox. Where we think the industry is going is to get a core of care workers that will serve 70-80% of your demand, who you either have as full-time employees or at least guaranteed hour employees, and where you work hard to fill their shifts and their preferences, and that can be done reasonably well without compromise on client priorities. And that 10-20% that we know takes 80% of our coordinator time, that you're willing to collaborate in the marketplace to fill that demand. And so we're working on launching a supply side marketplace that allows some of that load balancing between agencies and also for independent care workers, so that you can have the gig worker style care worker who wants to pick up the onesies and twosies, operate in that mode, but that you can offer consistent employment to more of your staff. And we think that's going to raise the attractiveness of the caregiving profession overall.
How does a technology company help to make that happen?
Well, we think it's an essential component. First of all, it's a rethink about how you do scheduling and the tools that go along with it. Because once you know, okay, I have this bulk of guaranteed hours, which, the care workers have a geography, they have a set of skills and a set of preferences. So it's a complex problem. But you're going to work to fill that capacity you have, because that's your contract with your best care workers. And so you need technology to help get you into that paradigm, because most people are not in that paradigm today. Then for the 20% of your demand that you can't service that way, we think this is where the half of Uber comes into place. You need technology to enable you to tap the gig economy caregiver in a way that's so frictionless that it's easy for them and for you to put together that supply and demand.
In order for a single software company to be effective, you have to have several clients in the same market area, right?
You nailed it. Yeah, market share matters a lot in terms of being able to deliver this proposition.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in certain markets, right, up here in Canada and Toronto, where we have 70-80% market share, and so we have visibility into overall demand and overall supply, we have a very strong conviction that we can just make the industry operate better. And so, of course, our goal is to grow our market share quickly, in all the places we operate. And there are pockets in the U.S. we have that density now, but it's part of the reason we are very focused on hyper growth, growing our market share, because we think ultimately it'll help us service our customers better.
Right. The more customers you have in an area, the more effective you can be. I want to jump into that a little bit more detailed. When I talk to agency owners and ask that specific question, how many of your essentially non-skilled caregivers, because that's where it seems where the biggest problem is, although we don't want to minimize the problem of the nursing shortage, but for the non-skilled caregiver, I hate the word.
I do, yeah.
Non-medical.
I see you were about to check yourself. We don't love that term.
Yeah, it's an old habit.
Yeah.
But non-medical personal care work. How's that?
Perfect.
Yeah, they need that respect. I ask people, how many of yours work for your agency and others? And the answer is always all of them. So it seems like somehow the caregivers themselves have informally accomplished what you're talking about.
Exactly. But that is when it's done in spite of, not in partnership with your employer, there is a lot of friction and built-in inefficiency. And we see it in our customer base. I'm sure you see it in agencies you talk to. It's very costly to recruit and onboard. And if you can't fill that schedule quickly in accordance with preferences, your aide is going to be talking to multiple agencies. And when they get a good case over here, see you later. And but you've borne the cost of the recruiting and the onboarding and so on. And you haven't been able to earn a return. So it's a built-in inefficiency. I don't think it's really serving anyone's needs as best as is possible.
So if you can coordinate that, then you're talking about eliminating some lost costs.
It's a win-win-win. There is no victim if you can do that well. Everyone is better served.
Well, I've learned something here about that today. I want to make sure that we talk about your forecast for the regulatory side. Yes. I know that you have people keeping an eye on the rules of the road in 3 different countries, but what do you see coming here?
I mean, it's going to be interesting what this new administration does in the next 2 years, right? I think there was a lesson, that I suspect Biden took in terms of the first 2 years of the Obama administration, and maybe not ramming through some of the plans and ending up in a compromise mode. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see what these next 2 years look like. I don't have a specific forecast for you on exactly what's going to come down the pipe, but I think it is going to be interesting. I think the things we can count on will be increasing moves towards value-based care. Can take a lot of flavors, but I think that's for sure. And I also think recognition of home and community care as a more important part of the overall care mix or health system is also inevitable. So I think those will accelerate the flavor that takes. I'm an interested observer right now. I don't want to stick my neck out and make a prediction.
But you do have an international perspective, and that is probably the top question of the era. There was a lot of talk during the campaign, which means for the last almost 2 years,
Yeah.
about Medicare for all and talk about public option.
Yes.
You have seen public health insurance firsthand. You probably are a participant there in Toronto.
Yeah.
Good or bad? Would it work in the U.S. in your opinion?
I have a pretty strong point of view on this.
Maybe the public option is what we should talk about. I kind of doubt that Medicare for all is going to come in our lifetimes.
Yeah, I agree. Public option is the right way, is the reasonable thing to speculate on.
Yeah.
So what I will say about, living in a single payer market, there's a lot of good that comes from that. Universal, all the value-based universal coverage and so on, for sure. The downside, which gets identified, is absolutely true. In the absence of competition, inefficiencies creep in, period. As a patient in Canada, you are not the consumer and you feel it. Now, we still get great health outcomes. We spend, 2/3 as much of our GDP on healthcare. So I don't think it's certainly not as dire as you might hear certain pundits say. I mean, we have a really nice public health system here, but there is a magic to competition and how it aligns priorities. And so a public option, I think, is a very interesting way to get the best of both worlds. Because if the public option doesn't deliver a competitive offering, then it won't succeed. And the mere, I won't call it a threat, but the mere existence of competition will keep the public option open. So I think I'm very bullish. If I could make me president of the world for a day, I think you need a public option for societal reasons, but you need competition for efficiency reasons. And if the system in the U.S. can combine those two, I think it'll be a major advantage.
That's a great perspective. Thanks for sharing that. In the time that we have left, I want to give you just one more chance to talk about AlayaCare. I know that most of my viewers are familiar with you, but just go down the list, exactly what you offer, and then I will post along with this how they can get in touch with your marketing and salespeople.
Yeah, great. So we play in pretty much every aspect of the U.S. healthcare or home healthcare market, with the exception of Medicare certified home health for now. So one of the things of having come out of a single payer market without these divisions between medical and non-medical care is that we are a fully HR, but we're also a fantastic scheduling, workflow, employee experience, client experience solution for private duty personal care. So, we do a ton of Medicaid business. We do a ton of private duty. The more complex your payer sources are, the better, in a sense, right? So we work all the way up with the largest enterprises, down to the mid-market as well. And so that's how I would think of AlayaCare, particularly if you have a business that's growing in complexity, where you have a mix of different types of care you deliver, a mix of payer sources. I think we're going to be a very compelling solution for it.
One of the areas that's growing within Medicaid, of course, is the home and family, the patient-directed. I assume that you are including that. All those waiver.
Little anecdote on that. So in Australia, it's a single payer market, federal, but all public funding for aged care is delivered on a client-directed basis. So I get my assessment from the public health system. I get my package, right? It's a bundle of money to spend. And then I go out and I find a certified private provider, and I sit down with them. I work out what services I want that fall within that budget. And that's another interesting way to get the best of a public pay, private delivery of home care. So yeah, programs like CDPAP are right up our alley.
Okay, great. And remote patient monitoring?
Yeah, absolutely, as well. And it's actually one of the best things. The biggest barrier to virtual care and remote monitoring has traditionally been, okay, who reimburses it? But the more you have a bundled payment model, the more you can just pick the right mode of care to get to the ultimate patient outcome. And so we think that's going to be a big tailwind for us and for our
But your clients get that through you directly?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, well, we know a lot more about AlayaCare today than I think we did yesterday. I want to thank you for spending this time with us.
Thank you, Tim. Pleasure as always.
Adrian Schauer is the CEO and co-founder of AlayaCare, and I'll post along with this video the ways in which you can get in touch with him. And if that fails, you can always find him again through me. You can subscribe to the Rowan Report for free by going to homecaretechreport.com. And you are always welcome to contact us at any time if you have technology questions, if you like to compare one vendor with another. Even though I get along with Adrian great and we have a good time together, at least we used to when we saw each other in person, and especially some of the after hours meetings. But one of the services that we offer at Rowan Consulting Associates, the parent company of the Rowan Report, is to help people to make those software decisions. So I hope that this conversation has been informative for you. Adrian, thank you again.
All right. Thank you, Tim.
So long. See you all next month.